This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
This episode of the Check the Report podcast is brought to you by The Athletic, which is premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. And listeners of this very episode of the Check the Report podcast can get 30% off the first year of an annual subscription to The Athletic by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. And welcome to the latest episode of the Check the Report podcast. I am your host, Vito Jerome Churko. And this edition of the Check the Report podcast is a United Shore Professional Baseball League-oriented edition with two guests in Carter Grote of the Utica Unicorns and Justin Orenduff, the Director of Baseball Operations in the USPBL. Carter Grote, he joins me first to discuss his first season in the USPBL, what he has learned so far from being in the league, his favorite team in the major leagues, the player that he molds himself after the most, the music he likes listening to before a game, how different is Pennsylvania, where he's from, how different it is from Michigan, living with relatives in Michigan for the time being while he was playing for the Unicorns, being a utility player for the Unicorns, and what he has to keep doing to become an even better all-around ball player. And then I discuss the state of the league with Justin Orenduff and how far it has come since 2016, the 24 players that have signed contracts with Major League Baseball organizations up to this point and what it means to him, and what he does in his role as the founder and runner of the delivery value system for pitchers, what he prioritizes with pitchers, what he thinks about the babying of arms today, and who he thinks is the best arm in today's game as well. And with all that being said, first, here is my interview with Carter Grote. And that'll be followed, once again, by Justin Orenduff. Enjoy. This is Vito Churko for the special edition of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. We have Carter Grote here with us this week on the special edition of the DSP Network. Carter, thanks for doing this with me. Appreciate it. A utility player for the Utica Unicorns, all the way from Pennsylvania, went to Furman University in South Carolina. So how did you get involved with the USPBL, by the way, Carter?
Actually, I have to give a big shout-out to my buddy I played high school with, Randy Dobnak. He was a 2017 Unicorn, and he eventually got picked up by the Minnesota Twins. So thanks to this league, he's playing affiliated baseball, which is awesome. But, yeah, he just gave me Jim Essian's contact information. And, Skip did a little research, a little background on me, and he decided to give me a shot and brought me in for spring training.
So in your first season in the United Shore Professional Baseball League, what have you learned so far playing this season?
There's a lot of great baseball minds in this, all around this league, and I would just say that picking their brains every day, it's been a joy, honestly, to learn more about the game, little things here and there to raise my baseball IQ.
Now, all the way from PA, as in Pennsylvania, and then you went to Furman University in South Carolina. Now, how did that end up happening?
So in high school, I always knew that I wanted to play Division I baseball. Didn't really have any looks, and I also knew that I wanted to go play in the South, where there was a little bit nicer weather, where we could play, from February to all throughout the summer. So I actually got really lucky. Played a high school game at Furman University, did pretty well, and they said, we don't really have any money, any spots for you, but if you want to try it, you can walk on and see what happens, go from there. And, long story short is I went there in the fall, worked my butt off, and they decided to keep me on the team.
Well, what's your best trait as a ball player?
Honestly, I think it's intensity and, my mental game. I think a lot of people have a little bit more talent than me. I would just say that I'm a little bit better mentally than them. That gives me a little bit of an edge.
And as I said, you're a utility player for the Utica Unicorns, and so you play infield, outfield. What do you prefer playing, though, and why?
Yeah, no preference. I just love seeing my name in the lineup every day. So wherever that is, second, third, left, center, I've played all over this season. So I just like to go out there and make top 10 plays for my pitcher.
Which you have now, out in the outfield. Made the SportsCenter top 10 plays earlier this season. How cool was that for you, by the way, too?
That was unbelievable. You dream about that, being on SportsCenter top 10 plays. And it just feels good that you're helping your team out. And thanks to the USPBL getting me on there with the pub there. That was pretty cool.
Now, how tough is it being a utility player at times, not knowing where you're going to play from game to game? How tough is that for you?
Yeah, you just got to keep your mind in it. You got to work at a little bit of different positions every day, to keep sharp. But it's kind of nice. You sometimes you get to take your mind off, hitting all the time, and you focus on what you have to do in the field.
Who's your favorite major league club?
The Pittsburgh Pirates.
And obviously there's a reason there definitely. Now, who's the one player currently in the majors today that you mold your game after?
Two players I really like the way they play the game, and I would like to say that I model my game after them is one, Mike Trout, and two, more recently, Mookie Betts. I like the passion that they bring, the way they can do everything on the field. Throw, run, hit, anything. There's no weakness in their game. Hit to all fields, and I like to model my game after them.
There's a lot of really good young ball players in the game today. You named two of them, and Mike Trout and Mookie Betts. Everybody, really, the consensus has been Mike Trout's the best player in Major League Baseball today. Now, would you say that that should be the consensus, that hands down he is the best? And, if he is, who is number two? Is it Mookie? Is it Manny Machado? Is it Bryce Harper? Who would you say? Who would you say are the top 2 to 3 players in the game today?
Yeah, that's. I think the consensus right now is Mike Trout. I love the guy, so I'm gonna have to stick him there at number 1. I think I do like what Mookie Betts is doing this year, and I really love the passion and energy that he plays with. So I would say, yeah, those are my top 2 guys right now.
What's your favorite music to play before a game to get you revved up and get the juices flowing before a game?
Yeah, I'm a big hip hop guy. But I can mix it up whenever. Like before a game, kind of get the juices flowing. You need the beat, so I go with the hip hop. But during the game, it's a sunny day. I like the little country, for BP, just to kind of get the head bobbing and the juices flowing as well. So not picky.
What kind of hip hop? What kind of country do you like? Artists and songs that you can name right now off the top of your head.
That's tough. You put me on the spot. But yeah, I'm a big Wiz Khalifa guy because he's from Pittsburgh, obviously. Drake, he's coming out with good albums this summer, and I loved going to any country concerts. So, get me in a country concert, and I'll be having a good time.
So what do you think of this Kiki challenge currently going on with Drake? You see people getting hurt, jumping out of their cars, getting hit by other vehicles or by their own vehicle. What do you think about that going on right now, all throughout the nation?
I think it starts off as really fun, but then, after a while, it just gets taken too far, way too far. And, people like me, when we don't got the dance moves, you just got to stay away from that stuff.
You got no kind of dance moves then, huh?
Absolutely not, no.
So back to how you hail all the way from Pennsylvania, coming to Michigan to play in the United Shore Professional Baseball League here in Utica at Jimmy John's Field. How different is it from PA to Michigan?
Actually, there's a lot of similarities between PA and Michigan. I would say the big difference is from when I played school ball in Furman. A little bit different heat, a little bit different weather, a little bit different, all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to say my roots are more of the PA and Michigan type, but I can do whatever.
And there are similarities in Jim Leyland. You said Pirates are your favorite club. Obviously, Jim Leyland, those 90s Pirates, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s teams are great teams led by Jim Leyland. He went to Detroit. They made that World Series run his first year on the job in 06. Had a great tenure with the Tigers from 06 to 2013. So for me, I love Leyland, and there are similarities when you think about that too, and you bring up Jim Leyland and that name. And I bet you guys, being from PA and loving the Pirates, that you have some fandom there for Jim Leyland, don't you, too?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Big Jim Leyland guy. I actually have family in the Detroit area as well, so big Jim Leyland guy, and I love his baseball brain. Very well educated.
Now, you live with the host family, is that true?
I actually live with my aunt and uncle. They are serving as my host family.
So how is that for you, by the way?
Absolutely amazing. I get to, since I've been in high school, college, I haven't been able to visit up to Detroit very often because, going off, playing in tournaments, and then being in South Carolina. So this has been great, being able to see my family every day and, just them helping me out, live here and trying to chase my dreams. So I thank them. I owe them a lot.
So what do you have to keep doing to become a better all-around player?
I just need to be more consistent. That's what it comes down to. Hitting the ball, having quality at-bats, hitting the ball hard and all directions, and hopefully someone takes a chance at me.
And I read, I think you have a 330 on base percentage or so, 331 maybe clip of getting on base at, so pretty darn good OBP. And what would you credit your knack for getting on base to? And, what's the key to getting on base? And, having a good at-bat and getting on base, Carter?
Well, that's the goal every time. I'm not a big stats guy. I like to help the team win. So any way I can get on base, whether it's reaching on an air, hit by pitch, a walk, anything, and then I'll let our big guys behind me drive me in, so we can hear the Unicorn victory song and have some fun after the game.
And I love that Unicorn's name. I love it. How fun is it playing for you Unicorns, by the way?
Oh, best team in the league. Whenever I tell my family and friends that I am a unicorn or was going to be a unicorn, they all laugh at me. I'm like, no, seriously, I think it's pretty cool.
Now, what does it take to get it done out in the outfield, to make those diving catches? How hard is it to pull that off? And, how good of a fielder and a jump on the ball do you have to get to be able to pull off that diving catch, such as the one that you did, when you made the SportsCenter Top 10 plays earlier in the season?
Yeah, I think outfield, the thing is being ready every pitch. There's a lot of standing around, waiting around, especially if pitcher's not throwing strikes like they need to. You just got to be ready every time, and that's the key. You work at it in BP, and you test your limits in BP, and once you get out there, it's go time. You wanna help your team win. You want to help your pitcher throw the least amount of pitches as he can, so we can get back in the dugout and hit again.
So really quick, I'll leave you with this. For young kids growing up today that want to play the game, are starting to get into the game, what is key, you think, for them to develop and become, good all-around ball players as well eventually?
I think it's just work at it every day. The big thing is, a lot of people told me in this league, Derek Jeter, he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, but he was consistent day in and day out, and he had a Hall of Fame MLB career. So the thing is just working hard every day and figuring out how to be consistent.
Carter Grote, thank you much, man, for all the time. Best of luck the rest of the way this season, too, with the Utica Unicorns. Once again, love the nickname, man.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Sitting with Justin Orenduff, the founder of Delivery Value System, the director of baseball ops operations, that is, in the United Shore Professional Baseball League. Justin, thanks for doing this with me here on Check the Report for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, first and foremost, how did you get your gig as the director of baseball operations in the USPBL?
Well, the guy who had my gig before me, Brian Berriman, he had followed a lot of my research and writing back when I was in North Carolina. And he said, if this league forms, we want to have you come in and be our throwing coordinator. So that's what I was in 2016. I came up to Michigan. I was in charge of all the throwing programs for position players and pitchers. And we basically did a case study on the pitchers, and we had a lot of success. And so then after the first year, I was set to come back. Brian stepped away. He wanted to, just be around the kids more. And then the league asked me if I would take over his position as director of baseball ops. So, here I am in year 3.
Pretty cool stuff. And now, what does your role exactly entail then as director of baseball operations?
So basically, I'm in charge of everything from the player scouting, the staffing, player evaluations, player development. But my main job here is to build the development plan for all players and build relationships with Major League Baseball to help our players get signed. That's like the big crucial part of it.
So, speaking of getting players signed, what does it mean to you to be able to say, and when you hear that 24 players now from the United Shore Professional Baseball League have signed contracts with Major League Baseball organizations?
Well, I think it just kind of substantiates what we set out to do, right? It's like our goal was always to give these guys an opportunity. We didn't know if we were going to have 5 guys sign in 3 years or 10. And the number, I would say it's a good number, right? 24 sounds good in a relatively short time span. And I think that moving forward, we're going to continue to get more numbers, the better that we, one, get the right player in here and continue to develop those relationships in Major League Baseball. And plus, once the players that we do get signed leave, they also have to prove that they actually are a good product for that organization too. So it all has to kind of work systematically so we continue to do what we set out to do, is give these guys an opportunity to get signed with Major League clubs.
So 24 once again so far, and we're in the midst of the 3rd season of the USPBL's existence. How far do you think the league has come since 2016?
Well, I think in terms of organizing it to where if you were to place a stadium wherever it may be, we can try to replicate the process that's done here at Jimmy John's Field in another stadium. And that's one of my goals I had for Andy, our owner, was, whoever you bring in or wherever we go, we have to take the same practice plans, the same vision, the same communication, and put it in that stadium as well, So we're still getting to that core value of developing the guys. So I think that in year 3, we're much closer than where we were in year 2, and the next year will be much closer. So it's an ever-evolving thing, but I think the goal is to get a systematic way where all coaches and staff know what it takes to get a guy out of here.
So, with that being said, how bright and exciting do you think is the future of the USPBL?
Well, I think that for any player that's sitting in college and maybe have a doubt that they may get signed or they don't get signed, we want to become the first place in their minds where it's like, all right, it didn't work out for me. I have to get to the USPBL because they have a proven track record of getting players signed, and that's what we want to be known for. And especially, our relationships with Major League Baseball. We don't have to have, the greatest relationship with all 30 clubs. There can be a select clubs that really buy into our process, understand what's going on, and I think that's the future of, the player development and the baseball side. I think the fan experience and what you see here when you come into the park, that's the entertainment side and the fan experience side of what they're watching. But from the pure baseball side, I think we want to be a known commodity of having a really good plan to help guys.
Transitioning now to your role of DVS, the delivery value system, what do you prioritize with your pitchers?
Education first, I would say. I think that when you come into our program, we always sit down with you and really have you understand why you currently are the pitcher that you are and what you need to do to get to the pitcher you want to be. And I think that that's the biggest thing is the awareness of the body, awareness of what you've been taught, what's good, what's bad, and then showing them the plan of where they need to go. So what we do is prioritize the areas in the delivery where they can have the most impact to help them get to the next level. And it's never like they come here and the job's done, right? They has to keep doing it, ever changing, but at the same time, we have a good filter of the things that work and what don't work. So I think that's where our success has been. Guys that improve miles per hour or efficiency, it's just because they've been smarter and understand those key things they got to work on.
So how much has your past playing baseball, being a former first-rounder, helped you teach and develop pitchers over time?
Well, in all honesty, what I knew as a pitcher as I played, mechanically in terms of delivery value system, I really wouldn't be able to teach these guys what I know now. So it was after I retired and I had to do the study and the research and all the time I spent teaching to be able to show these guys in a real short period of time those things that do matter. That's what really helped me in terms of the teaching side of DVS. But the playing experience of what it takes, the time, the effort, and the level of consistency and ability that you have to get to that highest level, that's where my experience side really plays a role.
Let me leave you with this now, kind of a random question, but about pitchers and the babying, so-called babying of pitchers that we hear of nowadays. And we do see on a frequent basis guys not throwing as many innings as they used to in the 80s or the 70s. A guy like Tommy John, who underwent, Tommy John, the inaugural Tommy John procedure, and now it's known as that, and pitched, 14 more years, a lot more baseball after that, was continuing to pitch 200-plus innings than other guys that pitched tons of innings like Jack Morris. Why do you think guys are being babied, aren't pitching as many innings? And, is there a significant difference between those pitchers of then and now, too?
Significant, yes. And that's kind of where I started my hypothesis with DBS was why can guys in the 50s, 60s, and 70s throw so many innings before they got hurt, and now a guy's getting hurt within 500 innings? And the answer is in the culture of what we promote now, and it's velocity first. Trying to go get zeros and win a ball game is almost second, especially as you grow up. Because every kid wants to go to the travel team, they want to go to showcase, and they're required to throw 2-3 innings, go out there and throw as hard as you can, throw a couple nasty breaking balls, get your scholarship. And so that is different from what it used to be. And you pair that velocity first mindset with, I need to get as strong as I can by 14 or 15. And what we haven't spoken about, which is our key ingredient, is the mechanics of how you learn how to throw the baseball have significantly changed. And, I had a 2-hour conversation with Tommy John before. Maybe it wasn't 2 hours, but it was a long conversation. And I asked him that question. I said, where'd you learn how to pitch? And he said, easy. He's like, I would sit on the couch with my dad. And he's like, if you want to be good, go and watch this guy. And it was Whitey Ford pitching. So he used to go out in the backyard, mimic Whitey Ford. But you don't see a lot of guys on the mound today looking like Whitey Ford, right? And so that's why, as an 11 and 12-year-old kid, when I turn on the TV, I'm going to try to look like the best in the world that I see on TV. And the honesty of it is, a lot of guys you look on TV, although they may throw hard and they're successful, the delivery patterns aren't the safest. And so it kind of has a cyclical effect. So my job is to teach a healthier one that can still have the high-end velocity to the youth age and let it manifest up over time.
And you need the consistent mechanics in delivery as well. And I wanted to ask, speaking of, the breaking balls and throwing that, when should guys start throwing that? How young should they be? Because I know there's been a big debate and big discussion about that, too, in recent memory.
I always tell my players that until you can prove that you can throw a fastball with a command, don't pick up the breaking ball. So that can be at 13, that could be at 17, right? But it's just like establish that pitch, and then how consistent are your mechanics? And I think where the young kids get in trouble is they really don't know what the arm should be doing to throw the breaking ball. They just chuck it in there, and some guys could do it well and some guys couldn't. But I think that the breakdown occurs and maybe an injury is because it's just being thrown not in the right way. And so if someone's there to tell them how to throw it properly, then it's not that bad, but the timing is key.
Who's the best pitcher in today's game?
Well, it would still be hard to argue with not Kershaw being the best, but I think over the last 5-6 years, you got to look at a guy like Max Scherzer, who has just continued to dominate. And one of the reasons I think is just because how consistently he's super competitive, but he's consistently repeated his delivery. He knows his pitches, he knows where they start, and he continues to do it year after year.
The different eye colors scares me too.
That could be an intimidating factor as well.
I think so, and he's a strikeout artist, right? He's a big-time dominating strikeout artist, and that helps you out, too. Now, he has a longevity now of having sustained success with the Tigers and now the Nationals.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, I want or I hope that Major League Baseball can kind of figure out is you don't see a ton of 24 to 27-year-old starters that are just dominating year after year because they may come up 1 year, 2 years, be dominant, and then they get hurt. It's the Matt Harveys, it's the Kevin Gausmans, Garrett Richards. It's like these guys come up and they're pretty good and they could be a bright young star, but then they get hurt. But Scherzer, Verlander, they continue to do it, right? And they're now in mid-30s, right? And they may go for another 4 or 5 years, but baseball's still hanging on to those guys because they continue to produce. And so my job is to hopefully say, well, there's a reason a guy could be 23 and pitch till he's 37 like they used to do back in the 60s and 70s. And we got to get back to that, I think.
And we hope to get back to that where guys are pitching into their mid-30s and late 30s. And I think that is something that you are trying to do with Delivery Value System. And Justin Orndorff, thanks for all the time with that being said. And best of luck to you the rest of the way with the USPBL as well.
Hey, thank you so much. Enjoyed being here.
And that is all she wrote for this edition of the Check the Report podcast. Thanks to Carter Grote and to Justin Orndorff of the United Church Professional Baseball League for joining me on this edition. And make sure to tune in to tomorrow's episode of Two Bad Hombres featuring Derek Walton Jr., the former U of M floor general that led Michigan to a Big Ten tournament championship in 2017 and to the Sweet 16 as well as a senior now looking for a job in the NBA after spending last season, his rookie campaign, with the Miami Heat on a two-way contract that saw him split time between the Heat and the Sioux Falls Skyforce in the G League. Talk to you guys then. Have a great day. And make sure to follow the DSP Network on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. And also follow me to make me feel good at the end of the night and allow me to sleep more easily on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Adios.